Doomsday 3.
We had Doomsday 1. He came from one of the toughest areas of Phoenix. Most of his friends were either in force. Praying for safety and
on the defense, talking about it. You better get your ass to the ball. You better get to the ball.
I just gotta say, when you come to former Dallas,
Different.
For sure, they would have thrown it off because
This guy gets off you.
And then I go to bed every night like, G, man, I promise you that we got a What is up, Cowboys Nation? Your boy Mike Tag here, man. Appreciate it. Hopefully you guys had a good Christmas, getting ready for the New Year's. We're getting this thing rolling. Got 2 games left. So before we get rolling, hit that subscribe, hit the like, hit the share. And we're going to talk about, man, this game. Also to maybe talk about the season. I got a couple other topics that we're going to break into. So definitely want your guys' interaction and your opinions. But of course, I can't do a Sunday show without my man Greg and his massive, beautiful cave. So we're caved up in the Cowboys cave and ready to roll. Greg, how are you doing? How was your Christmas and getting ready for the week? You got the weekend going, Cowboys. I mean, where are you at right now? What are you thinking?
I'm feeling real good, man. My mother and my sister are here for the week, enjoying Christmas with us. We had a great time. We got New Year's coming up. You know, it's kind of low-key around here for New Year's. We got the Cowboys playing. Anytime the Cowboys on television, it's a joyous occasion. And we look good so far. The season can be positive as we end it. And I'm just happy to be a Cowboys fan.
All right. Well, I like it. I like it. So we're going to get in to a lot of topics. Some of it's going to be Cowboys. I mean, you guys know I'm a fan of the U, and Greg is too. So we hadn't really talked about it, but I was at the bowl game, and I'd love to get outsiders' opinions, but I also would love to get, obviously Hurricane fans' opinions. And a lot of it has to do about Cam Ward and the decision he made to play one half of football, not 2. Now, I will give you my thoughts on it. I'll give you my thing. Then I'd love to hear, obviously, Greg, your opinion. And then I'd like to hear people in the chat as well, because this seems to be a hot topic. So going into the game, I didn't, the only reason I went to the bowl game was to see Cam Ward. I told my son it was his Christmas present. He's a huge Cam Ward fan. So I said, if Cam Ward is playing at all, we'll go. Because I hadn't even been to a Canes game yet. I couldn't believe this year. So I hadn't even seen him play. And so we're driving over, and we're listening to the radio pregame, and they're talking about it like, yeah, I think he's probably only going to play a series. He may only take 1 snap and kind of do a farewell and walk off the field, hand it off and go. Maybe he plays a series, maybe he plays a 2. So my expectations weren't high that he was good. I knew he wouldn't play the whole game, but I wasn't sure how long he'd play. So he went in and played. Obviously, the game's going back and forth. We don't have no defense, which will, that's a topic for another day. But Cam Ward, 190 yards passing or something, 3 touchdowns, set the NCAA record, which I think that was probably one of the reasons he was playing too. Eclipsed 18,000 career passing yards in college. I think that was a goal of his. I had no issues with him coming out of the game in the second half. It was predetermined. It was going to be decided. He left with a 10-point lead. Let's just be fair. He put up 31 points in the first half. If anyone's complaining on the Canes side, go look at the of Miami second half court. That's the few have a feeling looking like Florida State next year. So hopefully there's something going on with the quarterback position. But Greg, and in the chat, I'm going to zip through yours as I read it. But Greg, what was your thoughts? I mean, what was your expectations? How did you feel? I mean, where are you at with the whole Cam Ward situation?
Well, first of all, I wanted us to win. We hadn't won a bowl game since Brad Kyle beat West Virginia, and I was extremely happy back then. And ever since, it seemed like we showed up at bowl games just to be showing up. The steam was out of the team, the confidence, the motivation. Everybody just gave up, and we just played just to be there. this game seemed like we were playing to win it. And then when I found out that Cam wasn't going to play the second half, I said right then, it's over. It's over, because I don't care who they bring in after him. He's not Cam Ward. We only had a 10-point lead. We had to come from behind to take the lead after we got down early. But Cam Ward could have helped us sustain that. And if not, as Iowa State gets a touchdown field goal, Cam would have came back with another one. So eventually, I think the game would have been close. We would have beat it maybe like 55-48 or something like that. But when I saw that Cam wasn't coming back, I was disgusted. I understood that we don't want to take a chance to jeopardize his future NFL career. But at the same time, I'm thinking, if that's the case, if he's not going to play the whole game, why play him at all? Because don't take me up to the mountain and get almost to the top, and we're almost getting our first bowl game win after so many years of not winning, and then all of a sudden say, psych, we're not going to win this one because we're taking him out. So I was really motivated. I was happy. I was getting joyous. I was like, man, we got a chance to win our first bowl game. And then all of a sudden, Cam not coming back, and I'm sitting there looking, well, maybe they'll put him in the last 2 minutes just so we can drive down the field. Yeah. And when he shut it down, I said, this is disgusting. And then what really got me, Mike, was I saw the quarterback that will more than likely be our starter next year, unless we get somebody in the transfer portal, which I'm hoping. And I said, we've gone right back to vanilla offense, where just do this run and play, do that run and play, do this pass and play, do that pass and play. No active mobility in the backfield, just throw the ball. And I said, here we go again. 3 steps forward, 5 seats back. And from that point on, man, I wanted to turn the game off, but I never turned the game off on the Canes. And I waited till the last second. And then once it was over, then I switched the channel in disgust.
Okay. I mean, I respect everyone's opinion. Like for me, like I said, it was my one opportunity to see him in a Canes uniform. I think he'll be a Giant, so I'm going to have a very hard time rooting for him. But to me, college football's changed. And you're old school. I'm old school. We're used to these bowl games matter. The bowl games are nothing anymore. They haven't been. And that's, I mean, the college football playoff has pretty much taken over that. You have guys that sit out. I mean, Restrepo sat out. The other receiver, we had 3 receivers, one transferred, 2 of them sat out. We had some defensive guys that sat out. I don't know why they sat out. They need to play. They probably should have tried to get in the game to play a little better. And you had so many teams. I mean, this is kind of the norm. So I was really surprised he was even in the game. I was actually surprised he played longer than he did, but I think the flow of the game and everything happened. His helmet was nowhere to be found. I watched, I was sitting there when the players came out. He didn't have his helmet, right? And he was throwing to the ball boy, and the other quarterback was throwing to another quarterback. So I knew he wasn't playing. I said, he's done. Now, I had money on the game, so I probably would have had a right to be upset because the Canes were covering, and then they, when I saw Emory get in there, I was like, just run the ball. I don't know why he's so scared to throw the ball. Mm-hmm. If that's our quarterback, we're in trouble. I think they're going to go get a quarterback in the portal. The name to look for me is Texas, Ewers. I don't think he's coming back to Texas. I think they're ready for the Arch Manning era to begin. I don't think they're going to sit Arch Manning again. I don't think Ewers should come out in the draft because I think his draft stock has been hurt. Yeah. I don't know, but you never know what's going to happen. But either that or they need to start the true freshman that's coming from Georgia who just finished winning back-to-back state championships. He was all Georgia player of the year, this and that. But that Williams, Emory Williams, I've seen this act. I saw it last time against Clemson, against Florida State. He don't throw the ball. So I'm not digging that, but I got zero issues with Cam. I'm thankful to see that I got to see him play. So we just have different opinions of it, but I respect everyone's opinion. But for people to say he quit on his team, he didn't quit on his team. No. It was planned out. We may not have liked how it was planned out, but that was planned out. And it was either, do you have him for nothing or have him for half? I'm satisfied that I got to see him for half. So anyway, that's my
yeah, you're right. No, I'm not mad at Cam whatsoever. That not even an inkling of a thought. It's just, I'm just so, I know we got some Canes fans in the house, but guys, I go back with the Canes so far back and the Cowboys so far back, especially when it comes to college football, and these bowl games for the Canes means something to me because we haven't won one in so many years that I wanted us to at least get a bowl win. We weren't in the playoffs, but at least get this bowl win. And this was the best opportunity, motivation-wise, inspired-wise, coaching-wise, quarterback-wise, to get a bowl since Brad Kaya won us a bowl game. And just to see how it transpired and come up short like that because of logical situations, it just kind of hurt because we were right there. Yeah. And all it would have took was maybe one more quarter, but it is what it is. After that, I just thought about it. It's Miami.
It's still the defense. I mean, it's still the defense.
Oh, yeah.
Defenses. I mean, you score 41 points, you probably should win the game, I would think. Maybe.
Yeah, you should. And you don't give up 40-something. But, I did say in my pregame pep speech, I said, I thank Cam Ward for giving us the excitement and enlightenment this year of watching the Canes play again. And I said, I truly hope we get a defensive coordinator next year and some defensive powerhouse players out of the portal because we need them both.
No, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. But, it's like I told you, it's kind of before we got in there, it's weird. Like the Miami season to me is a little bit more disappointing than the Cowboys season because the Cowboys, with all the injuries, with all the, everything that they had to deal with all year, I mean, if they win 1 or 2 games, they're 8-9, which blows my mind that they would even win 8 games, losing Parsons, Tank, Dak, all these guys, the Diggs, Bland, this, that. I mean, all their big stars. So it still amazes me that they even have a chance to be over 500. It blows my mind. But Miami, the expectations, were if you took 10 wins before, I would have taken it. But as the season went on, you saw how special the offense was. Number 1 offense in college football. The defense, it's like I was talking to a guy behind me. And we're going to talk Cowboys. We're just going to finish this last one on the Canes. We're talking, and he's like, what frustrated me so much more about the Syracuse game is you had a 21-point lead, and a defense is still blitzing cornerbacks 30 yards out. Why aren't they playing, 2 high safeties? Make them work down the field because the receivers on Syracuse were number 2 and number 3 in NCAA of wide receivers, for high point balls and jump balls and all that other stuff. Is like, I don't understand why, the defensive coordinator did what he did, but it is, like I said, you no looking back and only look forward. I just hope that the quarterback that's leading this team next year is not the guy that I saw in the second.
Right.
I hope. I do not want to be like the Florida State Seminoles or arch nemesis. I sure would hate to be that. But anyway, I digress. Now we're going to talk Cowboys and Eagles. And, who would have thunk it going into the season? I think we all pencil. We love, we love the Cowboys and Eagles. It's a fun rivalry. These are 2 of the top teams in the NFC East, NFC going into the season. Obviously, injuries have just destroyed, Dallas. But now you look at it, and who would have thought we'd have Cooper Rush versus Kenny Pickett, in a game in December that really doesn't matter. It matters for Philly more than it does Dallas. But it's kind of, man, it's been one of those years. And I'm a fan of the NFL. I don't like it. I do not like seeing Jalen Hurts not play. I don't like seeing Dak Prescott not play. I don't want to see injuries. I want 2 of the best. I want them to be there and best team win, however way it works. And unfortunately for the Eagles and Cowboys, it hadn't happened all year, right? You had Cooper Rush, versus Hurts and all the injury, he had it. So it's kind of disappointing. And what really amazed me is if Philly wins, this will be only the second time in 18 years that they swept the Cowboys. It blows my mind because you think the rivalry, you think it would have been Eagles had some opportunities to be more one-sided, especially some of the earlier years, but very strange stat that I was actually surprised with. So
yeah.
What's your kind of thoughts on this game? I mean, how you watching it? Are you pumped up, or is it, they moved it to 1:00? No one cares about it. It was a primetime game, and now it's 1:00. What are your thoughts on this game?
I'm cautiously optimistic because, number one, Pickens can throw some picks. That's one thing he can do. He'll get desperate. He'll try to get the ball out when the rush is on him. He won't sit back there calmly, and he'll throw some picks. At the same time, I saw an injury report. If you thought we were injured before, we are devastated now. We got people off the practice squad coming in.
Yeah.
We are so decimated now, Mike, you and I need to suit up.
I was thinking about maybe I'll get out there on the field
give
a little bit.
Give them 2 or 3
I don't know what
plays.
receivers we're going to have.
But I'm cautiously optimistic because of the fact that Jalen Hurts isn't in the game. And you're right. When we play all these teams, I want to play their best. So when we beat their best haters, I don't want to hear nothing from you. So we beat Philly today. The haters be saying, well, you beat it with a backup. Well, no, not necessarily. A win is a win. If we beat you, we beat you. And if y'all beat us with our backup, you're going to act like you just won the Super Bowl. So I don't want to hear it. But yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. And I'm more intrigued as to how our defense is going to respond to Pickens as with our backups in there, and knowing that we've lost Trayvon Diggs and Marquise Bell may not be playing and Wilson's not playing, but we got some backups in there that might be doing a good job and stepping up, and the linebackers that are going to be doing Leo Afu, who's going to be playing. So I'm really intrigued. And Asim Richards, they think he's going to be playing today, offensive lineman, get a chance to play these last 2 games. Without CeeDee Lamb in there, this will give a good opportunity for our rookie Flournoy to come in and play some. Stevens is out, but still Brandon Cooks is playing from what I understand. We got Ferguson playing from what I understand. So to me, it's going to be an even matchup with the exception that we need to shut down Barkley. And Barkley's going to get his, but we need to shut him down. If we shut down Barkley to a half of what he normally gets per game, I think we can pull this one out. And as far as I'm concerned, a win is a win. And I just want to see the improvement because we're looking damn good considering all of these devastating injuries. Other than the Detroit Lions, we have the next level of devastating long list of injuries than anybody else in the NFL.
Yeah, what's crazy is Dallas is like number 1 in sack percentage or sack something. which blew my mind. Most of it's been the last like 8 games. And I believe Barkley, believe it or not, I think the one game, he hadn't eclipsed 100 only a couple times, and one of them was against Dallas, if my memory serves me correctly. So he's never been a Cowboys killer. So, you look at Philly, they absolutely were embarrassed last week against the Commanders. Well, I think the Commanders aren't a good team. They had this lead, and they absolutely took it away. Signs probably to come because I think you saw the issues with the coach. The coach is with Zach Ertz. They're having some sideline squabble after the game, shaking hands at the end of the game or whatever, something he must have said. Jalen Carter don't like the coach. They're fighting. There's so much inner turmoil with this team. It blows my mind, that you're winning games, but yet you're fighting amongst each other. That never makes any sense to me. But it is what it is. But Philly's coming off a horrendous, embarrassing, catastrophic, whatever you want to call it, loss against Washington, just absolutely choking that game away. Barkley did all he could to try and save him. I love Barkley, but Pickett looked like shit, for lack of a better word. The receivers were dropping balls. It just was a terrible showing. A defense that was ranked #1 got shredded. I've never seen, the only time it's ever happened in my memory, 5 turnovers. 5 turnovers Washington had and still won the game. How embarrassing. And no excuses. Like Eagles were coming out with excuses. Oh, Jalen Hurts got hurt. We were winning when he got no excuses. I don't want to hear the excuses. You guys were up, just like you were up. That's why I didn't make no excuses for Miami and Cam Ward sit down. Don't make no excuse for the Eagles. I mean, it's embarrassing where they could actually hand, if they don't get their shit together, they'll hand the division over to Washington, which would absolutely blow my mind. I think we'll beat Washington the last game. We'll show them how to handle inferior opponents with a backup quarterback. But, Philly's got a lot to prove. They're at home. Their fans are restless. They're probably, looking at a matchup in the playoffs they probably don't want. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on Philly's psyche? I mean, do you see anything with them that would scare you, or you think shouldn't they be coming out firing? I mean, on all cylinders with something to prove?
This is the time of the season every year that Philly starts to implode. Every year they get down to those last 4 or 5 games, and for some reason they start to implode. I don't know if they're over anxious because they see the playoffs ahead of them, or all the egos, because that's their problem. Right now they have an ego problem. You got the wide receiver, he's got an ego problem. You got Sirianni, he's got an ego problem. You got players on the sideline. I forgot what the other player name was that came out and snitched on Jalen.
Well, that was Brandon Graham, who's one of the most respected players in the NFL. One of the best guys. I love Brandon Graham, and he even came out and said it.
But that tells you there's an ego problem, because if he has to come out and say something, and you notice what was said, it was never spoken about on a team effort. We need to do this. No, it was passing. So he's directly going to Jalen. Sirianni running up to the crowd talking smack, thinking that the players want to see that and feel like, you defend. When the players don't want a coach to get out there like that, they want them to stay up front and be professional and show that he can put that noise out the way. So their ego problems are starting to flare up right now. And I think because they know that they're not going to get the number 1 seed. And like you said, they know that they're going to be playing somebody they don't want to play. They're starting to feel that Buccaneers playoff thing situation again, and the egos at the same time. And now Jalen Hurts is hurt, and they don't know whether they're going to win these last 2 games. They know the Cowboys aren't coming in to lay down. We're coming in to be spoilers. And they know Washington in that last game, whether it's going to be in Philly or wherever they're going to play, they know that Washington is coming in to try to take.
No, we got Washington next week. They got the Giants, which is like a cupcake for them. They got the Giants.
They've already played Washington the second time?
Yeah, they lost to Washington last week. They beat them once and lost to them.
They'll rest everybody for the Giants. So right now, to me, I don't think that they're going to be that motivated to win this game against us. They're going to just probably say, if whatever we do out there, if it beats the Cowboys, great. But if we don't beat the Cowboys, I'm not concerned, because right now we're not going to get the number 1 seed. And even if we beat the Cowboys and the Giants and win division, we're still going to have to travel. So I'm going to rest myself and stay healthy. I'm not going to make any bad business decisions out there. Jalen Hurts won't be in the game. So I'm just going to try to chill and relax and coast and get ready for the playoffs. And I expect us, this is one game that I truly expect us against Philly to win. I expect us to win because of Pickens and the mental aspect of the Philadelphia Eagles, where they are. This is their time where they implode. And it wouldn't surprise me when they get in the playoffs, 1 and done.
Wow, it'll definitely be 1 and done. The funny thing is, I was telling Kelly about it. So you get all that, and I see the 5 trophies you got behind you and all that. So they have these things, which is cool for like a man cave. So I am, people know I live in Florida. I'm not a Texas Rangers fan. I'm not a Dallas Mavericks fan. I'm a Cowboys fan, Miami Hurricanes fan. I grew up, we didn't have baseball in Florida. My grandmother was in family. We're all Mets fans living in New York or New Jersey. So I'm a Mets fan. I don't really follow baseball that much anymore, but I was a Mets fan. And still love the 86 Mets, my favorite all-time team ever. And don't really follow hockey. But they have these things for your city, right? So if you're a Philly, that's the one I said, it was Philly. And they have each team. So it's kind of cute, right? You have your little ring and you have your trophies. And all these other sports had multiple, right? The hockey had a few, and the baseball had a few, and basketball had a few. And then you looked at the Eagles, and they got one little trophy and one little ring. And I'm just thinking, if I was a Philly, how embarrassing is that? How embarrassing, because the Eagles are like number 1 in the state of Philly. That is in Philadelphia, in the city of Philadelphia, that is their pride and joy. I mean, that's their pride and joy over everything else. And I mean, it's got to be humiliating. You go out and buy that because you want to put it in your little man cave, and you got all the other ones are multiple, and you got one little one over to the side for the Eagles. How just humiliating would that be? But it's not going to happen this year for him. Maybe it'll happen. I like Jalen Hurts. I love Barkley. I like some of the players on the team. I don't feel they just got some bad karma going on with them, and I think it's with the coach. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out for them. But really looking at the Cowboys matchup, you don't have CD, so they're going to be without CD.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine was asking me, and he's like, hey, man, he goes, I got CD on my fantasy. It's going to be, I got to find someone who can I count on the Cowboys to get some points. And I'm like, man, I mean, Tolbert is usually good for like 44 catches, 50 yards, maybe get lucky with a touchdown, but that's about what he's going to get. Mm-hmm. I mean, Turpin can get you, he can get you a long touchdown, but he may get you no catch. You just don't know how they're going to, he gets limited opportunities. How do you see these receivers, and how do you think this game is going to play out on the Cowboys offense with Cooper Rush? He gets rid of the ball quickly. He's got one of the quickest, I don't want to say releases, but you know what I mean, seconds to throw. So he doesn't hold the ball very long at all. So, I mean, how do you think this plays out? Do you think it's going to be a very controlled game, a lot of two tight ends, maybe Ferguson, Schoonmaker? Or how do you think the offense is going to work out for Dallas? Or what do they need?
Well, if you remember our last show, Mike, I told you, I said, if we beat the Bucks, the way we beat the Bucks is going to all be on Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush is, to me, this whole season that he's played scared. In the seasons in the past, you see him playing like, well, I'm not the starter, so I'm just going to go out and have fun. And he just went out there with confidence. If you look at Rush now, he doesn't look confident. He looks scared when he's out there. He gets the ball out of his hands quickly because they designed that for him, knowing that Cooper doesn't have the patience to stand in the pocket and look downfield. So he throws it off quickly, but he's not on target. He's 50-50 whether he's on target. And these are short passes that you take what you get, and we should be getting those yards. Those receivers are sitting there wide open. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, every receiver's got 8 arms waiting with stick 'em on their hands. They just won't rush to put the ball on target. And if he doesn't put it on target and he starts to panic and just throws it off real quick just because he's panicked, well, the receiver's not going to get the opportunity to do for us what we know they can do. We got Tolbert, we got Flournoy, we got Turpin, we got Carr, Ferguson. We have the receivers to go out in this game and play lights out. We just need a quarterback that will get them the ball. They're getting separation, but we need him to get the ball. And when he throws it in the window, he's got to be precise, because a couple of plays he threw in them Buck games could have been interceptions. So it's not on the receivers. Let's get that straight now. It will not be on the receivers. It's all on Rush. What Rush does in this game will determine whether we win. Our defense has gone out there and put blood, sweat, and tears out there, knowing that they're decimated. But they go out there and put blood, sweat, and tears. And look at all these games we've played since we got blown out. This defense has stepped their asses up.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Giving our offense the greatest opportunities possible to win the game, but it's on Rush. So where goes Rush, goes the Cowboys in this game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look at the I couldn't agree more with that at all. I'm not a huge Cooper Rush fan, so I mean, I couldn't agree more with that. But he's efficient. Like if you can get the running game going, which I'm going to get to next, is get that running game going, that's going to help. That helps Cooper Rush. He needs that running game to give him that balance, and like most quarterbacks probably do. Looking at the running game, Rico, 4.8 yards a carry. I mean, he's caught fire, and once they announced that he's going to be the lead dog, he's caught fire. He's played very, very well. He's been one of the top running backs in the NFL over that span, which, it's credit to him. Credit to the offensive line. The offensive line, which we talked about, young offensive line, a lot of missing pieces and shuffling guys and drafting guys, and you got your first-year starters and all this kind of stuff. They've gotten better throughout the season, which I said was probably going to end up happening with this line. So I think the future is bright for the offensive line. Looking at Rico, and I know there was a question, is would you re-sign Rico? I have no problem re-signing Rico as the 2.
Mm-hmm.
But the Cowboys have got to draft. I would prefer draft a running back, or they've got to get somebody. They've got to get more in that running game. I don't know what your thoughts on that. If you agree, you guys in the chat, if you agree, disagree, but they've got to get some home run power in their running game, and they just don't have that right now.
Yeah, that's our number one deficiency. You talk injuries, you could talk quarterback being hurt. Our number one deficiency this entire season, the world knows, media knows, there's no doubt. You ask anybody, and if they're objective and ask anybody, what do you think the number one reason was the Cowboys weren't successful this year? No running back. And the opportunity to get one of 2. We could have got one of 2 right away when they were available, and we did nothing. So Rico Dowdle, I would most definitely sign Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle's only a few yards away from getting 1,000. A lot of people don't know that. He's underrated. He's quiet, but he gets the job done. He's only a few yards. He's double-digit yards from getting 1,000. We got to get us a beast of a running back, either through the draft or through the trades. And I don't know anybody else out there other than Derrick Henry and Barkley that are killing it that we can go out there and get on the market to get a running back. So we need a fresh beast of a running back. And I don't care, Mike, if we give up some draft capital by moving up to get us one hell of a damn running back, because that is the number one need we have. And if Jerry and them go in that room, that operation room, and they draft anybody other than a running back, unless a beast isn't available, anybody other than the running back, and if there's one available, then Jerry is not only senile, he has dementia, and he has totally lost his damn mind. But that's where we stand. Rico,
yeah, we're gonna get into some draft stuff, and we'll bring in some draft experts. I'll give you my 2 cents on, looking at. I would prefer the Cowboys draft a running back, and if they've signed Rico or a veteran, have a veteran there too. Have a 2-headed monster. I think running backs are very deep in the draft. Me personally, if they were to draft Genty, I would not cry about it.
Yeah.
My preference would be get a receiver in the first round. Get a top-notch receiver to complement CD for a couple reasons. One, you just signed CD to a 5-year deal. The beauty of drafting a guy in the first round is basically a 5-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
So by their 5 years, CD's 5 years, you kind of end up being a wash. CD's probably on the way out of retirement. And then you've got a guy that's going to be up for another contract. If he ends up being like CD, that quality of, then you got a guy you find, and now you're not paying 2 receivers heavy. Like the Cowboys, I don't think it's smart. Or, I would not 2 big money, because I think in the football are so much more developed than years past. The offenses are so much better than they're no wishbone and all that. I mean, they're running spread, they're running high flying, high passing offenses. I think you can get receivers in the draft, get yourself a top one, get a running back, second, third. I mean, you just saw Martinez. I mean, I'm a huge Martinez. I mean, he big, physical. You could get probably 5th round. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you've got the kid from A&M. You got the kid from North Carolina. There's running back aplenty in coming out this year. So that I would only on the draft skill. This draft needs about pass rush, cornerback, wide receiver, running back. I am filling up the draft with skill, and I'm filling in the gaps with veterans. And I mean, defensive tackle with a veteran. Defensive or linebacker with a veteran, offensive line swing guy with a veteran, that you can get decent, you can get good value at those positions. You're going to overpay for a cornerback receiver, right? That's the way the NFL is made. Left tackle, you're going to overpay. So get some value with free agency and get your skill with your college. I don't know if you agree, but that's my 2 cents on how I think they should approach the offseason.
Well, Genty, like I said, if they got Genty, I'd be like, okay, but Genty is not big enough for me. And then don't get me wrong, his weight, his size really won't have anything to do with to dictate how he plays on the field, because he may be a beast in that sense. But when I say a beast, I want somebody that's maybe around the size of like Dowdle. But this boy is off the chain running, and this boy can
fear in the defense.
Yeah, and he can break tackles, because you look at Barkley and you look at Derrick Henry. These aren't small cats, and these people, and when the secondary hates to have to tackle them, that is a business decision. But at the same token, my thinking is a little different. You say wide receiver. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, we have the receivers. I understand what you're saying long term, but I'm thinking an immediate process. We have the receivers. We can pick up a receiver, just like you saying we might be able to get a running back in the 4th, 5th round. We can get a receiver in the 4th, 5th round because you get hungry people back down in there. I want a running back because I know right now, regardless of the needs we have on offensive line, linebacker, defensive line, another good pass rusher, because we don't know if Tank is going to be coming back. And if he does, I don't think Tank is going to really be that much of an asset. Number one priority for me is a running back. And I don't want Jerry to go out there and try to find a cheap running back that he thinks, well, I think this is going to be because he wants to save some money. We need a serious running back. And if we wait to the 4th, 5th round, unless they know something we don't know, or you got some brilliant scouts out there, other teams are going to get those running backs, because a lot of teams in the NFL need a running back just as bad as we do to have that dual offense capability. So I go running back first. Maybe I would line up wide receiver at the 3rd or 4th pick, but running back first. And then I want a hell of a pass rusher, because when my boy got hurt, Overshown, to me, Overshown could easily be moved from linebacker to defensive end. So you got the bookends.
Oh, he's small, man. He's too small.
But Overshown is quick and fast and agile. And that boy is so motivated, he'll knock somebody over. But I'm saying you can move him either way.
Should you run a 3-4? Should you? I mean,
but just like we played Parsons on the line and linebacker when he came as linebacker, but you see where he's at. We could do Overshown the same way. But we get one more, and now you can leave Overshown back there as linebacker like he's doing, and then we're good on that. But I would go running back first, Mike. Wide receiver, maybe 3rd or 4th pick, because we got other needs in offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, and then corners. So it's going to be interesting to see what thinking process and what scouting the Cowboys are doing out there to try to get the best picks they can. But it's going to be a toss-up on what kind of running back we get, because college is one thing. Transition to the pros is the other. And if we get somebody out there that everybody knows has been busting through lines and has been going and pushing that needle, then great. But if we get somebody out there because it's a Jerry Jones pick and we don't know what the hell he got, then it's going to be strange, because there's nobody in free agency that I think we can get to give us a long-term beast back there as a running back in the NFL. So it's going to be extremely interesting how we fill that gap, and we need to fill that gap first.
Yeah, no, I mean, they got to get a running back. I'm just not a huge fan of running backs in the 1st round, unless, like I said, if he falls to you. I just don't want to reach for one. And right now, it seems like there's one running back that's 1st round quality that they want to get. Maybe go pass rusher, like you said, pass rusher. I'd have no problem with a pass rusher. I just want skill. Whatever you do, this draft needs to be about skill. I don't need meat and potatoes, because we've been doing meat and potatoes. Our offensive line, I'm fine with our offensive line. Defensive line, I think you're better off addressing in free agency. That's my opinion. Defensive tackle, I think you can address in free agency. The one thing I'd say about the defensive tackles, I mean, Zimmer came out, after like a couple weeks, and he said, I assure you, our defensive tackles will be better. Will be better. I assure you that. And Mozzie's played better as the season went on. Osa's probably played himself out of Dallas because he might end up getting a contract the Cowboys aren't going to match. So I think you can get some value there. That's where they've got to be smart with the draft, but they have to be active in free agency. And it's like I said, man, I'm a season ticket holder, and Jerry, he no dummy. My seat license commitment is the day before free agency starts. That's where you got to make your decision. Am I in or I'm out? Like he's all in, all out. And this year, it was crazy. I look back at back at the season. I'm like, shit, man, I only went to 4 games. 2 of them were on the road. I went to 5 games. I went to Houston, Baltimore, and the Bucs at home. And I went to Carolina
and the Ravens.
And was only
Ravens.
one road.
Ravens at home you went to. Yeah.
Yeah. So I only went to 4 games. I take it back. I only went to 1 road game. So anyway, that was disappointing to me. And like I told you, I didn't even go to a Canes. I didn't even go to a Canes game until the bowl game. So this wasn't as active as a season, but the injuries kind of deflate you in that. And I ended up taking a hit on my tickets as well, which pissed me off. So I'm going to be more disciplined this year. How I manage the tickets and looking at the schedule. Looks pretty exciting. You got the Chiefs coming in. You got road games against the Raiders in Vegas. You got the Broncos road game. You got Chargers who look like to be upstart. They're going to be coming into town. So it looks like a pretty decent Packers, I think, are coming into town. So it looks like it should be a pretty decent schedule for the Cowboys. But looking at the defensive side against Philly's offense, right? We talked about what our offense needs to do. The defense going against Pickett, he looked like trash, but it was his first game. Cooper Rush looked like trash against the Eagles the first game, but got better. But Pickett looked like garbage, against Washington, which Washington's defense is terrible. Do you think he's going to be better? I mean, this was a first-round guy. I mean, he was a first-round draft pick, started some games with Pittsburgh, obviously didn't work out for him. So, I mean, he's got some skill. I mean, you don't want to underrate him. You don't want to look past him. They still have dynamic receivers.
Right.
You still got one of the best running backs in the NFL. They still got a pretty good offensive line. So they've got weapons. They can be dangerous. I mean, how do you think this defense attacks, or how do they contain their offense?
It just depends on which Kenny Pickett shows up, because he's not consistent in anything. He's consistent in being inconsistent. He might have a good game, but you don't see it coming. It ain't like you saw Kenny Pickett's coming. He gonna have a good game. No, he might have a good game, but you don't see it coming. And mainly the defense wins the game for him if he does win. But our boys aren't defeated to the extent to where they're just playing and just be rolling over. So they're going to give him a test today. Now, we're deficient in the secondary.
Yeah.
But our defense is going to give him a test. Parsons has already said he hates the Eagles, he hates their fans, and he wants to be the Grinch. And they're gonna pressure Pickett, and Pickett is gonna have to be calm and have that demeanor to where this is one of my best games to win. I don't see them beating us. I really don't, because I don't think the entire Philadelphia team is willing to go out there and play this game like they have to have it. Like, I need to put every ounce of blood, sweat, and tears in this game against the Cowboys because we need it. They don't need it because they're not going to get the number 1 seed. So, and Hurts is out. Now the receivers, Brown wants his, period. But I don't see Philly coming out trying to win this game like they really got to have it. I can really see Philly laying down in this game because they don't want to get
surprising.
They don't want to get hurt. They don't want to get hurt. They got the playoffs coming up. They don't want to exhaust all of that excessive energy by trying to put every tooth and nail into this game like they really have to have it against the Cowboys, who ain't coming in there to play around. So Pickett is going to have to do it on his own. He's going to have to do it on his own. Rush is our key. If Rush turn that ball over, he will give Pickett the game they need, because Pickett won't be the one that wins the game. Their defense will win the game because of Rush's turnovers. But other than that, I don't see Pickett coming in there beating us. I just don't. I could be wrong, but I don't, because the hunger and desire in our Cowboys to go into Philly and put a knot upside their head is deep. And we're playing not at night, we're playing during the day. The field conditions are great. The field conditions are great. So it's going to be a good game. Pickett's, if he goes out there and he plays lights out, you won't see him repeat it. And the only reason I think people are signing Pickett's is just like signing a quarterback you never heard of. You just want somebody back there just in case, because you're not looking for somebody coming there and win games if your starter is out. We just need somebody back there so we can say we got a backup. Pickett's from Philadelphia. I mean, from Pennsylvania. So, well, you know, he's still in the same city, the same state. May as well put him back there. But I don't see him beating us. And if he does beat us, it's because of their defense, not because of him.
No, I would be. It would be very. If I was an Eagle fan, it would be very concerning if the Eagles aren't coming out in full force. I mean, like my man said, they need this game. They need this game. Now they can beat the Giants next week, fine, but they need this game to clinch the division. I mean, the division hasn't been clinched yet. I mean, Washington still has a shot. I mean, pretty sure they're playing Atlanta, right? They're playing Atlanta tonight, which
and then they come to us.
What Atlanta team's going to show. Then they play us. They can win both of those games. They can lose both of those games. I mean, you just don't know how it's going to work out. Philly, I expect Philly to be coming out strong. I mean, I think they're going to come out strong. I expect them to. Let's just say that, because when you got a wounded animal, you want to kill him. You want to kill him quick, because they back him in the corner. Trouble could happen, and I think they want to try and end that. If it does, it's kind of an old fight, man. If you let the guy hang around, you can end up getting knocked out. And I think for Philly, they do not want to let Dallas hang around. They want to put them away early. They want this game decided by the halftime. They want to cruise to the finish. So I expect them to come out guns a-blazing. Now, you don't think they will, which I respect that. And my point is, if that's the way they come out, their season's done, because they should be as motivated as you can be in this game. I mean, there's too much at risk and too much at chance for them not to be. But if they don't, it just cements the fact that, like you said, is they're in that imploding mode. They're turning on each other. It's just a whole weird dynamic with that locker room. It's just very odd to me. And I just don't know if they believe in each other. I don't think they believe in Hurts. I think players on that team don't see Hurts as the leader, which is, your quarterback should be the leader. And that would be a sign of trouble to come if they're not motivated to win this game. So,
but look at it. Do you think the Eagles would be where the Eagles are now without Barkley?
No, of course not.
So the Eagles aren't who people think they are. The Eagles aren't who people think they are. And that's why I know that they're imploding. They know that Barkley is the reason they are where they are now. And they've got problems. Barkley, pray tell, Barkley gets hurt, which you don't wish on anybody.
No.
The Eagles are done.
Yeah.
The reason why the Giants got rid of Barkley, not because they thought Barkley had been diminished, because of his injuries. They were concerned that he was going to get injured again during the season and they wouldn't have him available. But for some miraculous reason, when Philly picked him up, they just got him on a good year where the injuries didn't happen, and he was able to play to the potential we know Barkley plays. Barkley hasn't had a resurgence. Barkley just hasn't been injured, and that's why he's played the way he has. And the Eagles have been riding Barkley's coattail because the receivers and Hurts ain't doing it, and the defense ain't doing it, and the offensive line ain't doing it. Barkley's been the reason and the only reason they've been able to be where they are right now. And Barkley's going to be the only reason they get an opportunity to get in the playoffs. And if they win a game in the playoffs, it'll be because of Barkley. So this game, they're going to have to really weigh on Barkley, because I know they're not going to have Pickett throwing out there 60 times in the game. They don't want to risk that. Yeah. But Barkley is going to be the key. Now, with that comes the opportunity for him to be jeopardized in the game that, yes, they need it, worrying about trying to win the division, but do they really, really need it when the importance is getting in the playoffs? And at what point do you continue to risk Barkley in a game like this that the Cowboys aren't coming in to lay down on, when you know you're going to rely on him heavily today to play against the Cowboys, and each and every additional snap that you give to him jeopardizes him even worse? And if he gets hurt in this game, your playoffs are done, let alone the division, because I know you're not going to play him or any of the other starters next week against the Giants, because today is going to determine whether you really need that last game or not. And if you really need that last game division, is it worth it, knowing where Washington is? So, yes, I see their defense coming out, Mike, playing like they want to play to win, because I told you, if they win the game, it won't be because of Pickett's, it'll be because of their defense.
Yeah. Their defense is good. I mean, they got embarrassed, but they're good. They're good. They got embarrassed against Washington, but they're good.
Barkley is going to get additional snaps. And knowing where they are right now, do you really, really cross your fingers and hope that this isn't the point of the year with a guy who's finally been healthy the whole season, that this game isn't the game that he gets hurt? And now you think the implosion is going to get bad. You're going to see a catastrophic blow up if Barkley gets hurt, because the Philadelphia Eagles fans and everybody else going to turn on the coach, the whole organization. Why are you trying to play him in this game? It ain't like we really need him. We're in the playoffs, blah, blah, because they all know it's Barkley. But you never hear him talk about Barkley is the reason why we're winning, because they don't want to say that and reveal the fact that without him, they're garbage.
Yeah. No, and Andrew, I mean, I agree. I think Eagles are a good team. There's no doubt about it. And they've got talent on the line. They got talent on the receiver. They got talent on their defense. No issues. I think, to your point, I think the coach is the biggest probably detriment, I think, to that team. I don't know why, but it's just his personality, whatever it is.
Liability.
He's a liability. And I'm just not a believer in I love Jalen. Yeah, I like Jalen Hurts. I mean, I liked him in Oklahoma. I liked him at Bama. I thought he's a stand-up guy. I mean, he got benched for Tua because he wasn't performing well. He handled it like a professional. You know, he went to Oklahoma and he played well. So I've got no hatred towards Hurts. I just don't really see him as the difference maker. I mean, I think and you've kind of seen it. You've seen it when the game is kind of in his hands. It's just he doesn't really come through. So they are going to rely on Barkley. They are going to rely on that offensive line. They are going to rely on their defensive line. I mean, Jalen Carter, I mean, he's a one-man wrecking crew right now. I mean, he's playing his best football. The offensive line, their hands. I mean, it's if the Eagles come out ready to play, it shouldn't really be much of a game. And that's just being honest, for what the Cowboys, you don't have CeeDee Lamb. Their cornerbacks should lock up our receivers problem if they really wanted to. If they're focused, and the Cowboys are just losing too much but the X factor is, to your point, where's the Eagles' head? Are they motivated? Where are they at? And that's going to be you're going to see that in the first quarter, kind of see where they're at. But you let Cowboys hang around, one-score game, the pressure turns, right? The fans have no patience. And that's why I love the Philly fan. Zero patience for anything. You know what I mean? So if it's a 9-6, 12-9, which I think it's going to, if you're betting, I'm betting the under all day long. If it's one of those funky games where it's just like, man, one score here or there, the fans are going to be restless. The fans are going to be unhappy. And the fans are going to let the Eagles players know it. And the pressure is going to shift. The thing the Eagles need to do is jump out ahead. Everybody on the Eagles side is happy. They're eating dog and they're cruising to the finish. I don't know if that's going to happen. I know, Greg, you sure the hell don't think that's going to happen today. So it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be an interesting game. I just wanted to change things up a little bit because really, I mean, Cowboys, Eagles, with what they've got, both have, it's really not a ton that we could sit here and talk about for 2 hours. So I think we beat that horse down with the Eagles, Cowboys. One thing on Cowboys, which I wanted to get your opinion on, you are a veteran of Cowboys fandom, and you've been around, you know it all, seen it all that. Darren Woodson, he's a Hall of Fame finalist again. Doesn't mean he's in. He's down to the 25, which, rightfully so. He's been there, but he's come up short. Is this the year, and they aren't big on safeties getting in, but is this the year finally Darren Woodson gets his rightful spot into the Hall of Fame?
Yep. Look right there. Yes. That's on the front of my stationary bike. Darren Woodson. I've had that since I had my first NFL Dallas Cowboy helmet. I've had that, and it's like a little back sack thing, and I put it on a piece of cardboard, flatten it out so it can be right on the front of that bike. Darren Woodson is going to make the Hall of Fame this year. And one of the reasons why is, like I told you in one of our shows, a lot of players that should be in the Hall of Fame that aren't, is because when they retired, they dropped out the media. They dropped out of society. Darren Woodson, fortunately, has been able to stay within the auspices of media, television, and other players who know Darren Woodson have been able to bring him in the fold, and they know the secret now. These unqualified writers who get an opportunity to vote for an NFL player to get in the Hall of Fame, and these writers never picked up a football unless they bought it for their kid. What they've been looking at in that generation is who's more visible to them after football that they see a lot, and it makes their decision process easier. They're not smart enough to go in a think tank and look back at those players that earned the right to be in a Hall of Fame, who should be in a Hall of Fame, and they're no longer above the media because they're living their lives privately. And the Too Tall Jones is one. But Darren Woodson, fortunately, has been able to get in that mix where the formula for all ex-players and other Hall of Fame players is, Darren, don't disappear from the media. Don't disappear from visibility. Get on the podcast, get on the show, be available, be around. We'll talk you up from time to time about your Hall of Fame feats and what you deserve to be in. And eventually these writers will see that because they see you all the time, and you'll get the opportunity you well deserve. And I'm glad that he stayed in the media and he stayed available and visible. So now he's in there. Last year, they were talking about him, and all the players, ex-players from Cowboys were still pushing it, saying you need to be in there. The writers that did with him, like they did with a few other players. Oh, yeah, Darren Woodson. Oh, yeah, they've been talking about him a lot. He's visible. Yeah. Let's put him in there. He's an easy pick because he deserves it. This year will be the year that Darren Woodson gets in it. And I had in one of my online sites, I had a Darren Woodson signed frame jersey in my cart. Mm-hmm. And I said, don't pull the plug right now. I want to wait till he gets in the Hall of Fame and then pull the plug on the one that they're going to have, somebody's going to make for him with his Hall of Fame badge in there. So that's what I'm expecting to do within the next 365 days is get that one that he's going to be on once he gets picked up this year. He's well deserving of it. And those folks that don't go way back to the Darren Woodson days, I just tell you this. I suggest you spend a little time, and not because the media is so in front of you, you just spend 2 minutes looking at this, 2 minutes looking at that and move. Spend some quality time and go back, maybe YouTube or whatever, and look at as many games back from when Darren Woodson was drafted that they'll show you highlights, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I think the difference, and we had his defensive coordinator and his head coach at the time, Dave Campo, on the show. We talked a lot about Darren Woodson. George Teague, one of his teammates, had him on the show, talked a lot about Darren Woodson, had other Moose Johnston. We had a lot of the teammates, James Washington, so many. With Darren Woodson, a lot of people don't know is the speed that he had. I mean, he had unbelievable speed where he changed defenses in the way they were played. He was the nickel corner as a safety. He was covering Jerry Rice in the slot. He was then also covering big tight ends. He was covering. I mean, he was ahead of his time. You know, amazing. Like you look at a lot of these guys now and the way they were. He was ahead of time. He kind of revolutionized the safety position, and he was a ferocious hitter on top of it. He was just where Roy Williams, another really good linebacker for the Cowboys, or in that era. He was an intimidator. I knocked the hell out of you. But he wasn't a great cover guy, man. That wasn't his forte. You know, Woodson could do it all. And when you could do it all, sometimes your statistics don't really match up, right? You know, you look at it like, well, he didn't have all the interceptions that Ed Reed had, or he didn't have all the sacks that, another linebacker had, or he had all the tackles. I mean, he did everything very, very good, very well, really good, Hall of Fame good. And I think that's the problem when you have guys, like you said, that didn't see these players play. They look at the stat sheet. They look and they say, well, he had 3 All-Pros and he had 6 Pro Bowlers and this and that. But, John Lynch had more sacks, and maybe Leroy Butler or Dawkins had more interceptions, or, and when you compare the guys in the Hall of Fame or Palomalu or any of those guys, and they don't really look at what Darren Woodson did. Integral part, he won 3 Super Bowls, but I would say integral part of 2 of them. 2 Super Bowls. I will give him that. I will give him that. And I would say Eric Allen, I'm 100% with you, Bobby. He was one of my favorite. I know he's an Eagle, but he was one of my favorite players too at the position, cornerback. But Darren Woodson he was awesome, and he was so important to that. He played special teams almost his whole career on top of it because he was so fast. He would do anything to win, and he wanted to win as a competitor. I mean, he's great off the field. He want a Hall of Famer to look like, it's Darren Woodson.
I went in 2001. I was stationed at Travis Air Force Base, California, and I went to the Oakland Raiders Dallas Cowboy game at the Oakland Coliseum. I had field passes, and I'm sitting there in field pass with my other buddy, and we're standing right behind their bench. And when I say right behind the bench, I mean I'm literally got my hand on all those wagons right there on the bench. Helmets are right in reaching distance, and the players are right there. And before the game, Reggie Swinton came over, Teague came over, and I got to chat with them. And then at the same time, I saw Darren Woodson, Quincy Carter, Joey Galloway, and those guys on the field warming up with the long stretch bungee rope. And during the game, we walked around and somebody speaks Eric Allen. I got pictures on my wall now with Eric Allen, with Tom Flores, with Jim Plunkett, with Tony Dorsett's son, with Step Noski from the Cowboys, with several, with Campo, with the kicker, number 6, who was like a school teacher at that time, and he came and kicked. I remember him. And Joey Galloway up close. I got all those pictures with all those folks. And Eric Allen does deserve in there, and a little short something, but he was bad. But Darren Woodson was on a Cowboys team from way back, and some of you guys in the chat don't remember because you were babies and infants, and I probably babysitted you at the time. But Darren Woodson was on the Cowboys back when the Cowboys started off as trash, and then Jimmy Johnson came, and then the Cowboys were so popular, and so many players were popular that you heard of Darren Woodson back then a lot, but you didn't hear him like you heard of Irvin. Smith, Aikman, and then on the defensive line, Madden made our defensive line popular by calling him the Great Wall of Dallas, so people start paying attention to him. But Darren Woodson, you rarely ever heard about him. You heard about Roy Williams a lot because Roy Williams risked all. He didn't have a business decision. His thing was, you get the ball, I'm going to break your back. And players were afraid to come across that middle on Roy Williams, but he wasn't good on covering. Most of Woodson's interceptions weren't in the safety area. They were in the area around where a cornerback would be or a linebacker would be, because Woodson had that speed as a safety. When he saw a play wasn't coming deep, but it was coming short in the linebacker area or the cornerback, he had enough speed to get there and jump on the ball, almost like a Deron Bland, except as a safety coming up. And that's how Darren Woodson got a lot of his interceptions, right around the linebacker area or cornerback area. He got maybe a very few back there deep, but his were right up front. He could have played linebacker.
He played in college. I mean, definitely.
If they wanted him to. But Darren Woodson was on a team where we had the triplets and the defensive line who was getting so much notoriety that Darren Woodson was a very integral player, but he didn't get a lot of showtime. Yeah. So now that's why I say the writers who weren't around then, they got a vote. And the few that are still around that remember those times, Darren Woodson came up not because they went back and did their research and say, let's look at these guys, because otherwise they would have brought Too Tall Jones up there. Darren Woodson has finally got the notoriety he deserved because he didn't leave football and leave the media. And I'm telling you, it helps. It helps these players when they're still somewhere around the media or highly visible after they leave to help them be seen by these ignorant writers. So when the time comes, the decision is almost easy for them. And yeah, I don't say all you players in the past, you should be more in the media because, you know, you live your life. But understand the game. Understand the game. These writers are not serious voters who research. If they don't see you, they don't vote for you. Yeah. And all those players, Eric Allen is another one. He was an integral part of the Raiders and the Eagles. But he didn't get all the limelight because you had other players on both of those teams that were very, very popular. And when he left football, he didn't stay in the media that long. But if he did, and you saw him more, he would be one of those people that vote on. Chris Carter was the first one that I noticed that when he left, he stayed in the media on CBS because what's the guy named Peter King, who I can't stand to this day, have no respect for him whatsoever, said that he would never vote for Chris Carter because of the way he treated him during interviews. Fool, the man earned his keep on the field. Yeah. It's not about your damn interview. And Chris Carter stayed in the media, and the players around him on the panel kept talking, you're going to be a Hall of Famer. And the future Hall of Famer, Chris Carter over here, what do you have to say about this game or whatever? He stayed in the media. And all of that mess that went on back when they were talking about the controversy with him, and then when he went to the Vikings and just changed his entire aura, he stayed in the media afterwards. He had that serious moment when he didn't get voted in the media. And I know Peter King was one of the voters that didn't vote for him. And he cried on the network, and because he know he deserves it, but it's a shame that people have the opportunity and the power to keep him out the Hall of Fame who have nothing to do with football. Not a damn thing to do with
that is in every sport. It's like Nolan Ryan. I don't think he was unanimous. It was one idiot who didn't vote for him because they didn't want him to be I'm not doing it because it's first ballot or whatever the hell. I mean, you have idiots all over the place. I mean, I don't know. Ken Griffey Jr., he at least it better have been 100%. But there's a lot of players in baseball that for some stupid Jared Jeter, I don't think was unanimous. There's always some idiots that have some agenda. And it's the same with football. And that's why I think they need to have a committee of players from that era.
Yes.
From that era that, talks about some of these players because, like you said, a lot of these media guys, they don't know. They don't know football. They're just going by what they hear. It's the same thing I said with Too Tall Jones. Ed Too Tall Jones, I didn't see his whole career. I'm an 80s, so I saw the middle to end. But there is, like, you just say Too Tall. I mean, there's no NFL history book written that doesn't have Too Tall in it. I mean, Too Tall was a big part of the Cowboys aura, was a big part of the NFL aura, was a Super Bowl champion, obviously, and had over 100 sacks. The deflections, I mean, just everything about him. It's like, how is he not in the Hall of Fame? And then what happens, these guys get pushed aside. And you're seeing it. Safety, the problem again with Darren Woodson, safety position is just not the grand position historically of guys getting put in the Hall of Fame. So they get pushed aside. Then it gets stacked up. Then you get the Ed Reeds and you got the Palomalos. You get all these guys that are coming in, and then you're going to have the next wave of safeties. You're going to have the next wave of this. And it's just like, God, man, you got to get the right guys in. And I don't want it to be the Hall of Fame of good, right? I want it to be
Right.
the Hall of Fame of great players.
Right.
And I would say, stack Darren Woodson, and it's no disrespect to Lynch and Butler and Dawkins, and well-deserving a Hall of Fame, no doubt about it. But I would say Darren Woodson is as good or better than most of them. And that's, I see all them play, so I'm going by what I saw. And I thought what Darren Woodson meant to his team was as equal or better as the top guys in his era that are in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know how he's not in yet. I hope he doesn't have to wait another year, but it's just kind of the way it goes with this Hall of Fame process.
I think he gets in, Mike. And you mentioned one name that when this guy got put in the Hall of Fame, Darren Woodson should have been right next to him. That's Dawkins. Dawkins. You look at Darren Woodson's success and what he's done and what he meant to the Cowboys in the games, and then you line him up with Dawkins. I'm like, well, Dawkins, you should be behind Darren Woodson.
Yes.
Darren Woodson should have been in before you. And then you come in behind Darren Woodson. But like I said, when you're on the team and you got that much popularity, people are focused on so many other players. And look at all these first-time ballots of players who are popular. They're good. They deserve it. But they're popular. And if we don't have writers, just like you just said, players from that era who have a vote and they research, and even I would be all for the NFL having a Hall of Fame committee that does nothing but research those players, unforgotten players from the 80s and back, and go by and research those. And even if you pick 2 to 3 every year from that era and bring them up in the Hall of Fame, fine. You can extend the list of Hall of Famers. Why? You're already extending Canton. Why is it you got to have a certain number? Extend that number. I don't care if it's 15.
Well,
they worry about the speeches. They're worrying about the speeches on Saturday. Can't have 15 people doing speeches. Damn it, do it over 3 days. Thursday,
if
Friday,
you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer.
That's it.
Like, why?
That's it.
What made Drew Pearson a Hall of Famer a few years ago and not 20 years ago? You know what I'm saying? What made Chuck Howley a Hall of Famer last year, not 40 years ago?
And Randy Gradishar.
If one year you got 15 guys in the Hall of Fame, that's the way. Hey, some year you might only have 2, because I've seen it where they force guys into the Hall of Fame because there's a minimum of 7 in or whatever the minimum is. So you're either a Hall of Fame or you're not. I mean, that's the way I look at it. That's just my opinion, but we're definitely going to keep it on. I don't think Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer. I don't. My opinion. Obviously, he's got 2 Super Bowl rings. If you put his stats and his wins are just like Jim Plunkett, then put Jim Plunkett in the Hall of Fame. If your criteria is Super Bowl rings for the quarterback, then Jim Plunkett needs to be in the Hall of Fame too.
Jim Plunkett's not in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Then it is an absolute travesty.
Yeah.
It is an absolute travesty of the Hall of Fame committee.
Eli Manning is a 500 quarterback, winning percentage. He's had losing seasons than he's had winning seasons or close to it. He's number 1 in NFL history with interceptions. And I know he played a long time and yada, 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 but look at his interception percentage. I just don't think he's a Hall of Famer. And it's not that I don't think, Tony Romo has better numbers than Eli Manning. I don't think Tony Romo's a Hall of Famer. So I'm not giving Dallas bias. I'm not jumping on and if Dak Prescott doesn't get to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer either. So there you go. So I don't want to hear no Dallas bias coming out of my mouth. If quarterbacks, if you're going to judge them by Super Bowls alone, then Jim Plunkett has multiple Super Bowls. He's the only quarterback with multiple Super Bowls not in the Hall of Fame that I know of, that he needs to be in the Hall of Fame as well. So,
and you know why? You know why Eli's in there? 2 reasons why Eli's in there. Number 1, he beat the Patriots twice in the playoff. That's what the writers see. That's what these new generation writers see.
Yeah, the defense beat them, but that's all right. The defense beat the Patriots in the playoffs.
Number 2, he's Peyton Manning's brother.
Yes.
And the rules of the game in selecting these folks it is what it is.
It's political, just like everything else in the world.
I just wish, I wish, like, you wouldn't believe, I wish I would do the research. If they would put me on a committee and my job and others is just to go back from the early 80s, let's say the late 80s, all the way back to the inception of NFL, I can guarantee you I can come up in the first 2 seasons with enough players that people would say, you mean to tell me they're not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Wow, why aren't they? I could do that. But the NFL doesn't want to do that because the NFL is candy ass. They're looking at what's in front. What's in front? Make my pick easy. What's in front of me? I'm not doing the research from way back when. Hell, I wasn't even alive back then. Well, damn it, go get people who were. Get people who were and players and let them go by in that committee. And they can submit whoever they want. But the NFL can decide where they want to choose them. Like Barron guaranteed the majority of them they would choose because they earned it. Look,
well, he's going to get in because you made it. And Ultra, you're a smart guy, so I know you're not making stupid comments. But every quarterback in this era has better numbers than the quarterbacks in the 60s and 70s. I mean, that's it. Tony Romo's numbers embarrass Troy Aikman's. But who you put in the Hall of Fame, Troy Aikman or Tony Romo? I mean, let's not be stupid. Let's not. Let's not be dumb.
And you got to consider.
Eli Manning. I can name you in his era. Eli Manning. I could probably off the top of my head throw 15 quarterbacks that are better than him.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I mean, that shouldn't be. In Troy Aikman's era, you might get 2. Maybe you say Steve Young. Maybe you would say Brett Favre. That's being, and I would probably take Aikman over Favre, but not many quarterbacks are taking over Aikman. I can name 15, I can probably name 20 in Eli Manning's career that I would take over Eli Manning. I'd take Phillip Rivers over Eli. I would take Tony Romo over Eli Manning. I would take all these. I'd take Steve McNair over Eli Manning. I can name a million of them. I don't think Eli's a good quarterback. He's going to get in with his name, and you know, he got 2 rings, but if rings are the ultimate definer, then Jim Plunkett needs to be in the Hall of Fame. That's just the way it is.
And if rings are the ultimate definer, then you got a whole bunch of Cowboys from the 70s and the 70s and early 80s that you just need to line them up at the Hall of Fame and tell them when the door is open, come walking on in. That's just where Michael Strahan, I don't care what numbers you give him. Brett Favre gave him that last sack. I saw it. Brett Favre.
Oh, did you watch that Gastineau? Did you watch the Gastineau?
Favre gave him that sack to break the record. Gastineau, to me, is the all-time sack leader. Nobody gave Gastineau that sack. Brett Favre gave Michael Strahan that sack, but Michael Strahan was immediately in the media afterwards. And all of this stuff, he never left the game. And that's why these writers put Michael Strahan in. Too Tall Jones should have been in when Michael Strahan was still in college.
Yeah,
but it doesn't work that way. And that's unfortunately, that's the disease of the Hall of Fame committee. And unfortunately, these players go around knowing I deserve to be in the Hall of Fame and get that acclaim and that for what I gave the game. And during the era where hits were hits, games were there less games in a season. So what they accomplish in those less games, if they played 17 games or 16 games they play now, they would easily outbeat all these other players. And the rules now where you can't hit anybody, you can't touch them, you can't go below the knees and all this. These guys played when knees were broke up, and the medicine that wasn't available back then, and the doctors and the technology that wasn't available then to keep these guys playing and make them better, and the physical fitness and the routines and the scientific knowledge and equipment to help these players be who they are to continue to play these games. None of that existed during Too Tall Jones' era. None of it was raw. Get on the field with the equipment that you had that wasn't designed scientifically. The shoulder pads weren't designed scientifically. The helmets damn sure wasn't designed scientifically. The cleats weren't designed scientifically. Nothing about the fields weren't designed scientifically. Artificial turf killed people out there. Concrete was that thick under that thin artificial turf, and these players still endured it, and they got these Hall of Fame numbers and never get recognized because these writers do not see that. They will never try to see that. They are 15 minutes and out, 15 minutes and out, and whoever's the most prevalent in the media afterwards, the most popular that they can see, it's an easy decision for them. Put me on that committee. I'll shake them up.
And I agree. And Chris obviously cemented a point. I mean, Eli was a 500 quarter, and I mean Eli was a good quarterback. I'm not saying anything bad about him. It's just he's not a Hall of Famer. And will he get in? Sure, he's going to get in. He's a man. He's going to get in. But I think so many times, and it's really a good point by Chris, and we talked about it, is quarterbacks get too much of the credit, but they also get too much of the blame. Mm-hmm. But that's just a way. I mean, we could cry about it, complain about it, but it is. Like, is Dan Marino not one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time because he didn't win a Super Bowl? Because he didn't have or never was given a running game, never had the defense to sustain, success? Is Dan Marino not one of the great? I mean, he's one of the, if not the greatest thrower of the football that I've ever seen.
Thrower, yeah.
So you look at these guys, and then you look at a Trent Dilfer. Is Trent Dilfer really a Super Bowl champion quarterback? When you put on this elite status because he just happened to play with greatest defenses, if not the greatest of all time. Jim McMahon, you'd go with the Bears. I mean, so many times the quarterback, and it goes to even like a Cam Ward like this year. It's like, oh, well, Cam Ward, he didn't get in the playoffs, or I mean, the dude was putting up historic numbers on offense, number one offense in college football. Is he not a great quarterback because it's just like in the bowl game. Yeah, did he play a half and could he play second? I mean, I don't think he probably should have played at all personally if it was me because of money, and the risk that is there. But he wanted to play a half. He wanted to play with his team. Obviously, he probably wanted to get the record. He got the record. He did this. He did that, whatever it is. But they still put up 41 points. I mean, you're going to blame the quarterback for the loss or you're going to blame the defense for that? So that's what I'm saying. Football is the ultimate team sport. And that's why I don't give Troy Aikman all the credit for those Super Bowls. That defense was very important. And those guys on that defense that should be recognized for the Hall of Fame. And Darren Woodson is one of the leaders. Obviously, Charles Haley is there, but Darren Woodson should be in there as a leader. And it's the same thing with the offense. If Baselli is in the Hall of Fame, then damn it, Eric Williams should be in the Hall of Fame. He was the baddest right tackle in the NFL of that era. Injuries shortened his career, but he was a man amongst bulls. The only guy I saw manhandle one of the greatest pass rushers of all time in Reggie. I mean, so how is Eric Williams done it? So that's what I'm saying is just looked at the quarterback, but you got to look bigger. And that's why some of these guys get missed, is because all eyes are on the quarterback and saying, well, the quarterback, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. That's just
it's low hanging fruit, Mike. Look at all the fans. And I'm just going to speak to our Cowboys fans. We got Cowboys fans. We probably got the largest fan base in the world. I would venture to say that. But you can take, I'll be generous. And you could take a full third of our Cowboy fans. They don't look at the games and look at who they see as the player that can make a difference or where this guy came from. They look at, did we win? Did we lose? And then if we lose, they go to the lowest hanging fruit automatically. Dak ain't shit. Dak. Well, Dak got 10 other people around him. He got a defense over there. I know, but see, Dak, if it weren't for Dak, we'd be winning it. And Dak did this. And like I said, I went back and I always use the Green Bay Packer game for an example. I said, well, Dak didn't score 40-something points for the Green Bay Packers. He gave up a touchdown and he put him in position on one of them, but he didn't score 40-something. The defense did that. And Dak still came back and gave us 38, 39 points or something. But Dak, it's the low-hanging fruit. And these are fans that are not, what's the word I want to use? These are fans that are not connoisseurs of being a fan. Because a connoisseur of being a fan is a fan that can look at the game and say, it's not really Dak's fault. And I'm not going for the low-hanging fruit because the quarterbacks are the most visible. No, I'm looking at so-and-so on the defensive line who's killing us. Or I'm looking at so-and-so and the running back's not doing. Or I'm looking at deficiency we need back here. But low-hanging fruit is the generation now. And people like us that go back, it's frustrating Because you could talk, you see a Cowboys fan go to the game. What's up, Cowboys fan? Start talking about the game. Yeah, I sure hope Dak wins this game for us. I'm saying, well, I already know I can't get in a deep conversation with you because you just go to straight low-hanging fruit. As soon as I say something about, well, no, with Dak, you know, if you think about it, Dak didn't lose that game, and Dak did this. They look at you like this. What? Yeah. Oh, well, I still think they shouldn't have paid Dak all that money because Dak ain't done nothing. It ain't just Dak. But it's low-hanging fruit for fans. It's easy for them to automatically go to the quarterback, give him all the popularity, and give him all the blame. You don't have to look at all these.
I mean, they're the face of the franchise. They're the CEO. They're the highest paid, usually on the team. If they got their second contract, of course, they're usually typically the highest paid. And like I said, it's funny. There's no, I mean, I haven't heard Trevor Lawrence get a lot of heat. I mean, he's making 55. I mean, who gives two shits what a guy makes? I could care, like I've said it a million times, I can care less. And Andrew, you know, this obviously it cements my point. You can't look at numbers and just be a stat guy because Troy Aikman did so many different things that helped that team. I mean, he was the leader, and Michael Irvin's talked about it. And we've had guys from the 90s on our show. I mean, those guys are out partying. Troy Aikman was focused on winning. I mean, Kevin Gogan, said it the best. If you ever had a good laugh, go watch that interview again. But, that's why you can't get caught up in numbers. Hey, honestly, if you looked at Troy Aikman's numbers, you'd be like, oh, he's not. But how is he in the Hall of Fame? I mean, he look at the yards. He doesn't even. I mean, I think he eclipsed 20 touchdowns maybe once or twice. It wasn't like he was putting up these huge numbers. 3,000 yards. I mean, maybe once, maybe twice. I mean, people forget this, the love of Troy Aikman. He was booed at Texas State and the end of his career, booed off the So it is these quarterbacks, and it comes with the territory. We all understand that. They're going to get all the credit. They're going to get all the blame. It's a nature of the position. They touch the ball than anyone. They are the highest paid, so it goes with it. So, but I would say, I guess circling back, Eli, in my humble opinion, is not a Hall of Famer. So
no. Anyway, and my last thing on this is Troy had the Great Wall of Dallas. John Madden did it eloquently. Well, when you got an offensive line like that, you can't even get air in there. It ought to be against the law. It ought to be against the law to have an offensive line like that where you can't even touch the quarterback. I can get back there and throw ham sandwiches that long in long with the offensive line. That offensive line helped make Troy the quarterback he was. And without Troy, we don't win those Super Bowls because Troy knew how to play the game. That's the point. He knew how to play the game, how to get the ball. But that offensive line is the reason why Troy was protected. And when Troy left the game, because the offensive line was gone, now Troy got a mediocre offensive line like everybody else got, and he was getting pummeled. In that game against Washington in Dallas, where he was running around the corner because he didn't have nobody to throw to. And that whole season, he was already having to run for his life every time the ball was hyped. He ran around that corner. And Lavelle, what's his name for the Washington Redskins, the linebacker?
LeVar Arrington knocked him out.
LeVar Arrington knocked him out. And Troy said right then, I'm out of here. I'm out of here, just like Michael and everybody else. I'm out of here. I ain't got the protection I need at all. And Jerry lost the formula that helped us win by drafting people that can mimic the Great Wall of Dallas, because that's what you needed, Jerry. If you stuck with that formula the whole career, the whole time you're drafting, you could always protect your quarterback, Jerry. But somewhere along the line, he forgot that. And then in these last few draft years, he started to get back to that. But he forgot that. And Troy took a beating because of that. And they booed who? Troy, because he's low-hanging fruit. But they didn't boo Jerry for not putting the protection that Troy had and enjoyed during those Super Bowl runs. But it was always Troy because he's low-hanging fruit. That's why I say some fans, they're Cowboys fans just because, the Cowboys fans, they love when we win or lose. But I'm one that looks deeper than just winning losses and blaming the low-hanging fruit. Green Bay game, you didn't see me blame Dak. I blame the defense.
He got his share of the blame. He should get share.
He got a share, but the overall blame to me was the defense. And everybody's like, no, it was Dak. It was Dak. I said, well, Dak don't play defense. And if he played defense, do you think he'll give up 40-some points?
Yeah.
And it proved it. First 2 games out the gate this year. The same people that lost that game lost those. And the offense in the Ravens game came back. We were within 1 stop of the Ravens to get the ball back and possibly tie it. But
no, I mean, it is what it is. And I'd say, just to put a bow on it, is, you look at it, fortunately, and you have to see a lot of these teams develop through the time. And I, been very fortunate to interview, my era is the 80s and 90s guys. And I love talking to them, and I love giving them a voice, and I love hearing their stories. And even, Gogan, one of my favorites that I've had on the show, is just so real. It's not necessarily drafting the guy. It's the culture that was created. Yeah. Gogan, 7th round, Q&A was drafted. Nate was a undrafted. The offensive line of the Great Wall wasn't built with all these first rounders. You look at the Great Wall 2 with Frederick and Tyron Smith and Zach Martin. They're all first round guys. I mean, these guys, street guys, but they bonded together. They created a culture together. They were tough and they were hard nosed. And that's what the Cowboys are, to me, are always just missing. They're missing with this generation and this team, is they just don't have culture. Where Eugene Lockhart's been on the show, hang or watch film together, and they're enjoying themselves. And maybe it's the nature of today's game. It's a business, and everyone kind of goes with their own way and does their own thing and has their own lives and does their own marketing and all that kind of stuff. But that's what made that Cowboys team so great. And it made a lot of those dynasties. I mean, you can look at the Patriots, you can look at the 49ers, and it was all kind of the same story, and and I don't know how the Chiefs are. I'm not close enough. I don't follow the Chiefs close enough to know how they are together, but they definitely have a culture there. And I think that's what's missing with this Cowboys team. Now, what I would say is, not to drag it out, and I don't know how much time you got, Greg, but not to drag it out, but what I've seen from this team gives me hope for 25, because it was very easy for Micah Parsons to say, you know what, guys, my ankle's still bugging me. I'm not taking any chance. I got a contract coming up. Deron Bland could have said, you know what, I got a contract. I need to protect myself. You have all these guys that had easy outs that they could have just kind of walked away, but they came together. Parsons, to me, this season, not as statistically, maybe not be the best because he missed so many games, but I think this was his best season in the NFL, because I think we saw the leadership develop, saw grow into that role and accept it and embrace it and just really take charge of the team, to where, I dare to say this is Micah Parsons' team, and there's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't have to be Dak's team. I think Micah Parsons is facing, and it's so tragic with Overshown, but you saw the development of him and Leofow that you talked about. You're seeing the offensive line with Hoffman and back. You're seeing stuff that you say, you know what? We can get some culture here. We've got some dogs here. We can get something to build on 25. So maybe this is something where this season needed to happen for a reason for next season. Now the asking down to Jerry, right? If he has the same mindset he had this offseason, it's all for nothing. But if he doesn't, and they make the moves and they do the draft right and they get the free agents, this team, you could be building something that's pretty damn special if they do it right.
Well, and I'm glad you touched on that, because the culture is starting to evolve from the players. The players themselves are starting to evolve and re-energize that culture of the Dallas Cowboys. Not Jerry. Jerry has no idea what culture is. And McCarthy is, like you use a good term in one of the shows earlier. McCarthy has been made a lame duck, not of his own doing, but because of what he has not been given by the general manager, owner / potato cooker and all that. But the culture, if you notice, the Cowboys players came together before the Bengals game. The Cowboys, I'm talking about the game before that, they came together and they decided among themselves that we are no longer going to be perceived as a team that doesn't give a damn. we're going to go out here and we're going to play our butts off for one another. That's where the culture starts, when you play for one another. Because when you play for one another, you have a culture among the players that says, we want to win. We're going to play our best. And that's where it derives from the players. It had a leader can initiate what the culture he wants to have among the players, but the players have to accept it. But when the players take ownership, that's when a culture evolves. And that's what they did during the Aikman days. They took ownership of the culture that they wanted to have to win. That's why when Jimmy Johnson got fired, it didn't make a difference, because that culture was already there among the players. Our players now are starting to evolve and get that culture. Michael Parsons said, we're going to find a way to make me a Cowboys for life. My agents may not like what I'm saying, but we're going to find a way to make me a Cowboys for life. Meaning he's willing to take a contract that may not be the top, because he wants to be a Cowboys for life. That culture is permeated. He stepped up after Dak is gone, this and that. Step up to become the unheralded leader now. He's the type of player that's becoming that player who wants to play the game for what the game is about, not with all this business stuff that's going on. And other players are gravitating to it. And they're all saying, yes, we are playing for one another. When you hear players say we're playing for one another, the culture is starting to evolve. And yet next year is promising, because if we get all these injured people back, let alone the diamonds we're going to get in the draft and the diamonds we'll get in free agency or off-season trades, we can come back next year and be the powerhouse. 49ers are in their decline. They've been to 2 Super Bowls. They're at that point they're starting to decline. The Chiefs, you can see it. You can see it in the Chiefs, where that dynasty is starting to evolve, to go down.
Never count them out, though.
No, you don't count them out, but I'm saying you can see it. If you've followed football long enough, you can see where the tide kind of changes for teams. You can see it, and it's there. Next year, we have the pickings. And let alone what 49ers, what Chiefs, what Eagles, what Ravens, what Buffalo Bills players out there that may gravitate to the Cowboys. You never know. There's players out there looking who looks good next year that could be a potential team that can go to the playoffs, or potential team that I would want to take my expertise to. Yeah, I won 3 Super Bowls over here. Yeah, I've got 2 over here. Or I've been playing with this team for this long. But the Cowboys are looking good for an opportunity to go over there and do some things. Don't be shocked if some players from some of those teams I mentioned wind up talking with the Cowboys in the offseason to try to get over. It's going to be up to Jerry whether he makes that decision to bring them on and how he's going to pay them. But
and that's, I mean, that's the key to it, is you don't need to bring over the huge contract guys. You need to bring over that's what Dallas, kind of did with Plan B free agency. They were very, strategic in some of the guys they brought over to the team to help them, or via trade. I mean, they didn't have free agency a lot, until the mid 90s. So you everything was through trade and be free agency. They had, so that's what Dallas brought in. Those that you traded, like a Charles Hale. The Cowboys, it's up to Jerry to be, and to sign off on getting some of those kind of guys. And like you said, with the draft, hitting on the draft, Overshown. I mean, the terrible injury. I pray that he's back. I mean, it'd be so hard to think that he can come back next year. But I mean, what a great kid, and just, God, you hate to see that happen to him. And but like you said, with modern medicine, I mean, geez, Tank Dale got his kneecap separated or whatever happened to it, and he had an ACL or whatever else he had with it, the damage, and you hope that he comes back, because you don't want, like I said, you do not want to see any. I mean, as much as I don't like the Eagles or the Reds or Washington, I don't want to see their guys hurt, man. I want everyone to be at their best. I mean, I love watching football, and I want to see the best players play. Obviously, I know Ultra's not a big Dak guy. He doesn't think Dak's got the dog in him. The jury's still out on me. I mean, I'm not. That's why I said I don't think he's a Hall of Fame. I need to see it. The thing I would say about Dak that worries me is I don't. And I hate to compare him to, but he brought up Burrow. You bring up Allen. You bring up these elite guys that you hope your quarterback is at that. I just don't see that calmness in you know what I mean? He always look on his face. That's the part that worries me about, if I'm being honest, you know, and no one wants to win a Super Bowl more than me. I mean, I want the Cowboys win a Super Bowl, and the Cowboys are tied, but there's something, right? That mentality, that dog mentality. I don't know if he's got that. I don't know.
Well, between him and Romo, I take Romo all day long. If I'm just saying between the two, because Romo studied the game. He and Romo didn't give when he had interviews. Romo didn't give you the company line, and when Romo spoke, you knew what the hell he knew what the hell he was talking about. So between the two, I would take Romo all day. But Dak has an opportunity to get us there, and I'm saying this because of this. We have the nucleus to do it. We had extended injuries this year. And I said early in the season, there's something about Dak this season that I'm noticing is off, way off. Because I've never seen Dak throw that many balls in the dirt. Never seen Dak throw that many balls not on target. It was something about Dak this year that just didn't seem right. I don't know. Maybe this time away will give him a time to come back and refocus and a little bit more maturity and really come back and play a much better game. But we have the opportunity next year to really do some things. And also, you have to look at the rest of the league. You know, no dynasty has ever stayed a dynasty. New England never stayed a dynasty. The 49ers never stayed a dynasty. The Cowboys didn't stay a dynasty. Eventually, time starts to wear down on them where they just didn't get the job done. And then players start leaving for other teams. Players start retiring. And then it just started to gradually slow down. And if you look at teams now, like I do, and a lot of fans don't, the teams that I mentioned to you earlier, I'm not counting them out. But if you look at them, you can see the decline starting to happen. When that starts to happen, the vulnerabilities are prevalent. And when the vulnerabilities are prevalent, they can get got. And players from those teams know it, and they know when to exit stage left and join another team that's up and coming and got the potential to come up, like the Detroit Lions, like next year the Dallas Cowboys, like the Rams. These are teams that are up and coming that aren't declining, but because of certain circumstances, a lot of injuries, they weren't be able to move up. But if you look at them, their futures look brighter. Some of these other teams that have been up there for a long time, they're starting to decline. And when that happens, they're no longer considered dynasties. They're no longer competitive. 49ers are one. They don't know what's going to happen with Christian McCaffrey with all the injuries he's having now, whether he's going to be able to come back or whether he's going to get traded. They'll trade him maybe. They'll trade Debo maybe. And they don't know what they're going to do with Purdy and as far as pay him. If they pay Purdy, how they going to pay the linebacker? So there's a whole lot of stuff you have to consider. And I look at stuff like that that's going to be coming up, that it's going to be players that you're going to be surprised about during the offseason that are no longer going to be with those teams that are right now in the top 4 or 5. And when that happens, the decline starts to move a little bit faster. Mahomes won't be a dynasty forever because he won't have the players around him to continue that dynasty. Can't count them out. Remember what I'm saying. But those dynasties, those folks that stay there for a while, they're not going to always be there.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to keep it. It's hard
to keep it. So,
but when you got Mahomes, it makes it better. I'm just going to answer one question from the chat. Then I wanted to do my last Dak comment and question to you and in the chat. But Dave, we talked about a lot of this early, Dave. If you're bored, go back to you can go back and watch it. I think the Cowboys are going to have their hands full against the defense of the Eagles. It's really going to come down to, we talked about Cooper Rush. He gets the ball out quickly. It's going to be a very methodical type of game. They're going to have to do long drives. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a funky game. No one predicted or expected or probably wanted a Cooper Rush, Kenny Pickett matchup, but that's what we got. So it is what it is. But going back to Dak Prescott, Kelly and I talked about this because I brought it up, and I am not. I'm very open to people. I am not a football expert. I'm not I don't break down film. I've never played at a high level, so I don't know. I just ask and I just observe and ask the questions that I observe. So the Cooper Rush, Dak Prescott. I watch the games, and I know you watch them intently as well. Cooper Rush doesn't like Dak Prescott seems to do a lot of the moving around and and going over here and changing, checking out, moving stuff and doing all the finger stuff and all of that all the way to the end until he snaps the ball with a second left. Cooper Rush seems to get to the line, maybe do one audible, none of this, and does the play. Do you think that Dak is either trying to do too much to be looked at as the elite guy instead of just saying, you know what, I'm going to play my game and this is what, or is a coach just trying to get him to do too much, give him too much leeway to do everything? It just doesn't, it seems so much different. And I know people, Ultra being one of them, say the offense looks better with Rush. It just runs a little smoother, just, and he gets the ball out a lot faster. And that's a fact. I mean, you can't deny he gets the ball out faster than. Do you think there's anything to maybe Dak? And Dak even made a comment about it. Maybe I'm trying to do too much. Rush makes it look a little more simplifies things a little bit. Maybe I'm trying to do too much. Something to that effect. I'm probably paraphrasing it, but do you think this is something Dak should look at and see, you know what? Maybe I need to trust in the offensive, in the system. Maybe I need to be not so, all over the place and over analyzing what's going on. I mean, is there any, maybe I'm not saying it right, but do you get what I'm saying? Is there anything to that?
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, Mike. But here's the difference. And I'm going to refer to Romo real quick. Romo was a commander. Romo knew the field. Romo used to make change plays, and he called because he could diagnose and see the defense. Dak can to an extent, but he's not a Romo when it comes to diagnosing the defense. The plays that Romo does and all that action, Dak does when you see all that movement and stuff, he's not designing that. Romo would, but he's not. Those are plays that are being called by Mike McCarthy, and prior to him, the offensive coordinator before McCarthy, who designed those plays and those actions and motions for Dak to keep the defense thinking. They know with Rush hasn't been in long enough to be able to diagnose defenses. They keep it vanilla with Rush. It isn't Rush's decision to just go in there and just don't do all those motions and then just throw the ball out quickly. Those are plays that are called for Rush. They make specific plays for Rush based on his skill and his lack of being able to diagnose the defense and keep the defense off the key so they can come thinking. They know Rush is not at that level yet. So what McCarthy and them have done, they keep the game simple for Rush. So the plays that Rush gets when Rush isn't doing all these motions and doing all this, that's not what Dak has created. That's not what Rush has created by not doing it. That's what the offensive coordinator / Mike McCarthy, those are the plays and the way they want the play set up that they're calling into each one of those quarterbacks. So it's not Dak doing all of that. That's the plays that McCarthy has given Dak to do and the motions he wants Dak to do to keep the defense thinking prior to the ball being hyped. With Rush, they don't give him all of that. It's overload. They know Rush is not going to be able to comprehend all that and keep all that. So they give Rush vanilla, simple plays. That's why I said, remember during the season, I said, we need more motions. We need more motions prior to the ball snap to keep the defense thinking. Defense will line up against us and don't move because they know how we walk to the line. That's how we're going to stay on the line. And the only motion we have is when we bring CeeDee Lamb around the back and give him the ball. And it's never the motion where he's faking it and then we throw it to here. So they know CeeDee Lamb's going to get it. That's why they bust his little bony butt right there on the corner all the time. So it's the offensive coordinator, McCarthy, who's calling those plays that Dak has when it looks like Dak is doing too much. McCarthy designed that, and Dak is executing that. And with Rush, they say, well, Rush doesn't do all that. Well, it's not because Rush decided I'm not going to do all that. Those are the plays McCarthy gave Rush to do to keep it simple and go down and throw the ball quick. Get it to this person. See, McCarthy and them know Rush is Rush, Dak is Dak. Rush and Dak aren't going to get the same play schemes, period, because they both can't execute them. Dak has mobility. Rush doesn't. So they know Dak, if he needs to, he can use that mobility. And the motions that they give Dak to do prior to the ball being hyped It's all in preparation of having that defense off key. That's what it's for. To get them off key, make them run over here, make them have to reshuffle what they think the play is going to be, and then to make it successful for Dak. With Rush, they don't do that. And because they don't do that, that's what kills me about the pre-snap motions and stuff that we don't do to get that defense off key. And defenses know, oh, with Rush in there, we know they're just going to be vanilla. They're going to let Rush just throw it to the
but the vanilla's working.
Vanilla's working for now, but vanilla isn't scoring a lot of points for us. The defense.
I just want to win. I don't give two shits.
I want to win too, Mike. But vanilla is not the game.
I mean, they beat. I mean, you look at it. They beat a Tampa team that probably has a good shot at the playoffs. They beat a Washington team that is going to be in the playoffs. And with Dak, they beat a Pittsburgh team that's probably going to be
defense. And they almost beat defense. All those games you talked about, our defense won those games. And they almost beat the Bengals. Defense won those games.
But do you think, and I'm just playing devil's advocate, do you think the defense is being helped because the offense is stagnant? They're sustaining drives. It's longer drives. It's time of possession. They're not making mistakes. There's not a lot of turn. And I'm just saying. I'm just playing again. I'm playing devil's advocate to it. If there's got to be a balance. I just think with Dak, my own opinion is my thought is I think he just does he tries to play hero ball. Is that fair to say? Hero ball. Yeah. And I think he needs to trust the talent that he has around him more and just play ball. You know what I mean? Play loose. It seems like he's very, he's trying to justify his place in the league. And I don't know if and that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I differ a little. I don't think he's trying to justify his position in there. I think this year, and I said it, this year, there's something about Dak that I noticed that's off. It's really off. We've never seen him throw the ball like he's been throwing in the dirt. We've never seen him off kilter. And I don't know if it was a combination of the pressure on Dak media-wise or what, but it's something about this season that Dak has been totally off. The defense has been keeping us in these games. And whether it's Rush or Dak, the offense has got to go downfield and score. Every time we get in the red zone, we have problems with Rush, with Dak. The defense has been keeping us in the game. The defense beat Pittsburgh, not Dak. The defense gave us the opportunity long enough to be able to get a play or two in there with Lipke and Tolbert.
The offense had to score. I'm not going to say
the offense had to score, but look at the scores. They were low scores, Mike. Low scores that we won these games. We were accustomed to playing 30s and in the 40s. We're not doing that anymore. So the fact that we can keep teams down in those 20s and we're starting to beat them, and Bengals, we almost had them beat, if not for that punt block. It's because the defense has been stepping up and winning those games for us. Whether it was Dak or Rush, they had to score. Eventually they scored, but they didn't win the games for us. The defense won those games. And yes, the defense was allowed to be off the field long enough because we were able to sustain drives all the way to the red zone to give our defense time to rest, but we weren't putting it in there. Aubrey was kicking field goals.
Yeah.
Aubrey was kicking field goals.
And I think Dak Prescott's better than Cooper Rush. I mean, let's not be silly. I mean, what I'm saying, if Dak is running the offenses, maybe, not, again, playing hero ball, let's just say, he admitted it. I mean, he kind of said, I need to, look at that kind of, he can make those throws. He can make the throws that Cooper Rush can't. He commands the offense better than, you know what I mean? So he could do some of those things. I just wonder if maybe Dak tries to do too much. And maybe he just tries to, there's nothing wrong with being a bus driver. And I'm not saying that in a negative way because
I think he tries to do too much because he doesn't have that commander mindset of the game like Romo did. Romo knew when he stepped out on that play, whatever they called in. He knew if it was going to work or not. He knew what the defense was doing. Romo could study the game. He knew it. Dak isn't at that level. Dak has the skill, but he doesn't have that. And with that, we're not having that on the most visible team in the country, and the pressure that's being put upon you, and all of the stuff that's coming down on you. And then you go out there and try to do a little too much to make up for it. It's a recipe for disaster. But the play calling and the pre-snap motion calling is not Dak. It's McCarthy. It's after the ball is snapped what Prescott is trying to do too much on. After the ball is snapped, when he doesn't see Tolbert in the Atlanta game, wide open down there on the left side of the field, and he's trying too much to go for somebody who's not open and trying to get the ball to him, and it's intercepted. That's what Romo would study, and Romo could see that. Dak doesn't see that, but it's after the snap that he's trying to do too much, Mike, not prior to the snap.
Yeah.
The play call is the play call. It's after the snap. And this year I noticed in Dak, something was totally off. Look at how many times he threw screens, how many times he threw balls right across the middle, and they were in the dirt, they were in the ground, and they weren't even right there. I mean, you could see it in his eyes when he's playing. Something about Dak was just off this year. Totally
off. He got civilized. He got a girl. He got kids. He did, that's what happens. It's like Rocky and Rocky 3. Remember, Clubber Lang had to beat the hell out of him because he got soft. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it was something, but I saw it in Dak, and maybe this time away because of this injury, unfortunately. Maybe this time away, the baby is here, the house is being built, he's got paid. Maybe this time away, and the rest of the NFL, where we can see some of the teams may not be the same type of concept we saw next year, we see this year. Maybe all of that put into that gumbo is gonna reveal a Dak this year coming up that's different than what we've seen, and maybe more like the first 3 years when he was at the Cowboys. Maybe, but there's a whole lot in there that I saw with Dak this year that I just didn't see right. But I can't blame it all on Dak because the defense was getting blown out, and now our defense is finally getting it, Mike, with all those injuries. With all those injuries, they're finally getting it. Now we just need an offense that when you move the ball with those vanilla plays we're doing and you get in the red zone, Rush, put it in the end zone, and Rush run every now and then to let them realize, shit, he ain't no runner, but he'll run it if the opportunity gives it to him. So now you have to cheat a little bit. And when you cheat, somebody's open. So, Rush they give him vanilla plays for a reason. Now, what blows my mind is why to this day we still haven't upgraded Dalvin Cook, or we still haven't even incorporated some plays with Trey Lance at all. That blows my mind. Even in the third and fourth quarters, why have
he's got to be back? I mean, I've come to the acceptance that Trey Lance has to look like shit. I mean, that's the only, that's the only thing you could say. I mean, I don't blame them for trading for him because I think there was some uncertainty about Dak, and they're going to resign him, and that's kind of your insurance policy. So I don't kill the team because, I mean, he was drafted in the top 5. I mean, they're not often going to be able to get a quarterback that high a position. So I get why they traded for him. He just has to be terrible. I mean, at the end of the day, he just has to be terrible because I said if Dak Prescott was gone for the year, I would have went with Trey Lance and just let's see what he's got, and maybe he could be the future, maybe whatever. But obviously he must look really bad. So I think that's what it is. And I think running back, I think the change they did with running back was making, finally moving past this whole running back by committee thing and just giving, hey, we're going to live and die by Rico, and Rico's deliver. I mean, 4.8 yards a carry for the season for him. And he was at like 3. When they were doing this whole committee thing. So he has really upped his game with the running, as a running back. And I think the offensive line has gotten better, which obviously helps too. But yeah, that's just my thought.
But I don't think Trey Lance is totally garbage. I just think Mike McCarthy and them got so desperate that they feel like their best option is with an experienced backup that we've had for years. And now that our running game is a little bit better than it's been, let's just stick with the backup that we know that has been here for a while and knows all our plays. And let's stick with the known versus the unknown and try to make something out of Trey Lance that he isn't right now when he hasn't had time to be prepared for it. But we got a known backup right here that we know we give him vanilla plays. He can do the vanilla plays. He can take advantage of the plays that are available to him, the passes that are available to him, the receivers that are open when they're available to him, and get it out. He doesn't have the mobility. But when we get in the red zone, we have to improve how we have Rush get that ball across the line. Next year, I don't think Vaughn will still be with us. I think Zeke will be gone next year. Well,
I think the whole running back room is gone, except
the whole
maybe
running
Rico.
back room probably shook up. We'll keep Rico Dowdle, no doubt. We'll keep Rico Dowdle. But like you said, we need to get somebody back there, and Rico Dowdle can be our number 2, but not the number 1. But I just see right now with Rush that they designed. He's a known person that knows all the plays for Dallas, but he's not somebody that's going to be your future number 1. And with Rush, we know Rush can deliver with the vanilla plays that we give him, and we're counting on our defense to keep us in the game. And Rush can get you down the field. Rush can get you down. It's slow, it's methodical, but he can get us down the field. That gives defense time to rest. However, once we get down the field, we have to look at how many times Rush has got us down the field that if we got in the red zone and we scored, we would be far better off this season. With Rush, if we got in the end zone when he got us down in the red zone, but he hasn't been able to do it. Dak hasn't been able to do it. And Dak, the defense was on the field a lot longer because there was something about Dak that I noticed that was totally off. And maybe he was dealing with that hamstring issue a lot more than what we thought. I mean, not more than anybody knew. And then it got to the point where it really just exploded on him because he wasn't running the ball. Remember people saying, why isn't Dak running the ball when he got an opportunity to get these yards? Maybe he knew he was having some tingling back there. He didn't want to stretch it out.
Now that's on him and conditioning. Hamstrings.
We don't know. We just don't know.
I just couple good things. Definitely, Steve, appreciate it. The whole bring back Mike. Maybe I'm in the minority. I like Mike McCarthy. I think he's a solid NFL coach. I'm a fan of stability. The guy won 12 games in a row, 3 seasons in a row. If they win their last 2, they won 9, which is a miracle to me with this team. In the injuries, if he splits, he's 8-9. He wins 8, which is a miracle to me with the injuries. If he loses 2, then he won 7, which with the team and the injuries is a miracle to me. So I'm a fan of Mike McCarthy. And I think Zimmer has proven the defense has gotten better as we kind of predicted with the new scheme and everything. If you're going to tell me you're going to go upgrade, maybe a Vrabel, if you think he's an upgrade, or whoever Ben Johnson, if you think that's an upgrade, I am okay if they want to redo everything. But if you're going to trot in Ron Rivera, you're going to trot in Kellen Moore, you're going to trot in some retread that's going to be a downgrade, I'd rather stick with McCarthy. The players have proven they're playing for him.
Right.
Because this team has won games, and I saw it in the chat, and I love the fights that are going on in the chat between Falk and Ultra and Swift and all them. It does make for good viewing as I'm doing the show too, so I appreciate it. It gives me a good laugh. But I'm just saying, this team has not quit on McCarthy. When you look at the Giants, they need to change their coaches because the team obviously quit. I don't see the quit in this team. I think McCarthy still has the pulse of the team and still has that team fighting for him. So I've been on record, and I'll stick with it. I am not going to be up in arms if Mike McCarthy is returns.
Right.
I don't know about you, Greg.
No, you mentioned that before. You said, well, I if they got rid of him, I wouldn't burn the house down. But if they keep him, I don't have a problem with it. And I would rather them keep him because I don't want us going there trying to recreate the wheel and starting over. Because you bring in Vrabel's going to want to bring in his own people, and they're not tested with it. We don't know what they got. Zimmer, at first when he got back, it seemed like the game had passed him, but then he adjusted. And now the defense is playing better. And keep in mind, everybody, look at the list of injuries we've had all season. It makes a difference. They are starters. And remember, several starters Durant's Armstrong, several starters left to go to Washington, and those were game changers. They left to go to Washington. So, and then all these injuries we had from training camp all the way up throughout the season, that made a major difference. And we're still playing good, not great, good football. Zimmer has adjusted. Mike McCarthy and them have adjusted. We just need to get everybody back healthy. And we know we're going to get some diamonds between the draft and free agency to supplement what we have. And next season, I feel is going to be far more promising. And I look at the rest of the NFL too, and I look at their landscape and I see the opportunities we have. But no, I don't want to fire McCarthy right now, because all these players, these people, these fans that say, get rid of McCarthy right now, start him. Well, who the hell are you going to bring in that's instantly going to take the Cowboys to the Super Bowl? And you got to think of the domino effect when you bring in another coach. You don't just bring in another coach and that's it. Look at around him of the coaches that we have that help maintain the team to get us where we are right now, playing as good as we can play with those injuries. Where are they going to be if you bring in another new coach? Look at our defensive coordinator. He might leave and say, I'm out of here. I'm going to another team. And we don't want to lose him. So you got to look at the domino effect that occurs when you bring in a new coach. It's not just bring in a new coach, plug and play him, and everything changes, folks. It doesn't. I know you're desperate for wanting to win and win the championship, and I know you're tired of hearing the haters. Don't let that be your motivation because of haters. But remember, you bring in a new coach, you're bringing in a new everything. And when you bring in a new everything, it's not instant success. And then some of you will say, if I'd have known this was going to happen, I would have kept McCarthy. Well, that's on you, because you decided you want us to change everything. So look at where we need work.
It's got to be a big upgrade. Yeah, it's got to be a big upgrade. And I mean, I'll echo Steve. I mean, I've said it. It's not, to your point, we lost some guys. It's not the guys we lost. We didn't replace them with anybody. That's the problem, in my eyes, is you let people go and don't replace them. That's a problem. Or you expect rookies and draft picks to do it. But anyway,
free
hey guys, we're rolling. Go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry.
In free agency, we did what?
0.
You cannot win.
No.
If you do nothing. Even the winners, the Kansas City Chiefs, the 49ers, the Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, the Philadelphia Eagles, free agency, they always did something. You can't win if you don't enhance what you have during free agency, especially when you got the biggest 2 diamonds sitting there on the shelf waiting for your phone call, and they would be more than willing to play for you, and you don't even give them a call. So consider all that, folks. You have to consider that.
It's hopefully it's a lesson learned. And I showed this, Greg. Someone gave me a Dallas Cowboys gave Mike Tag rookie card. I got a set of them. They gave me me a set. Cool. So someone got them for me as a gift, a good friend. So I don't know what I'm going to do with these cards. I think there's some gem 10s in here. Could be worth a few bucks. I might sign a few and send them out. You guys, if anyone collects cards, and hey, who wouldn't love a Mike Tag Cowboys card?
I would like one.
In the cave? Well, you're going to get one. We'll get it. So if anyone does, you guys know my Twitter. You know my handle. Give me a holler. There's 20 of them. So I'm going to number them and all of that. But it was a cool gift. One of my co-workers got for me. I thought it was pretty cool. And again, appreciate everybody who subscribe, like, and share. If you haven't done it already, make sure you do it. It's been a tough season. Let's just be honest. Let's not make no bones about it. The hype has been tamed a little bit, but I still try and bring it. It's been tough. I think 25 is going to be a much better year for us. There's no doubt about it. The Cowboys just got to do the right thing. I love the fight in this team. I expect a fight today. I think the Cowboys are going to fight. I want to win. I don't like losing, and I sure the hell don't like losing to the Eagles. So the Cowboys need to come out there and whoop that ass and get this win. And then next week, I don't like losing to Washington. I want to beat them, and I'd love to be the spoiler on these two teams and make life a little bit more difficult for them. So I'm just telling you, I would love for them to win these last two games. finish with a winning record. It would be astonishing if it happened for everything that they've been through. I love Cowboys Nation. I had a great time in Tampa or at AT&T watching the Tampa game and hanging out with a lot of great people. So it's been awesome. It's been a blessing. We will be continuing this show. We do a lot of interviews for all our new subscribers. We'll be getting in some legends of the game. We'll be doing some more interviews over the off season. I know Kelly and Jimmy and Greg and I got some things planned. Greg and I might be doing some best of all-time great Cowboys because we got some old minds here. So we might mix in some shows and do top 5 all-time. Go back to doing some of those. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So again, the show wouldn't be anything without you guys. So it doesn't cost anything to subscribe. If you hadn't subscribed and you're thinking about it, say, I don't know about these guys. Trust me, I think you'll like the show. Go back and see some of the great interviews we had with legends of the game. It's an education if you're a Cowboys fan of the history of the Cowboys, but also we were great at one point. We were winning championships year in and year out, dominating decades. We just hit a little bump in the road for a couple decades, but we're going to get back on track. But just wanted to say that. Happy New Year. Yes. You guys be safe. I lay low on New Year's. Greg and I, we talked about it, but be safe, be smart. Uber costs you nothing. If for what it would cost you for getting a DUI or God forbid getting an accident, hurting yourself or somebody. So definitely be smart on the New Year's. Greg, I'm going to give you the final word of the new year. Happy New Year to you. As we get going, we'll be talking in 25, but I'll give you the final take on the game and any final thoughts.
Well, first of all, in the Air Force, we used to call it dial a ride. So please do that. Please, the expense and the tragedy that happens on drunk driving is unfathomable. And you always think, well, it's not going to be me. Well, that's when it is you. So be safe and have a great Happy New Year. And we're going to be low key here. We pop some champagne and we chill out over here. My wife hug and kiss each other. And then we call the family and say Happy New Year. Overshown, if you hear this, I'm praying for you to come back. You had ACL, MCL, all the CLs. I'm praying that you come back. You are one of the giant diamonds, most clearly visible, in that is coming to the NFL, and you are going to be a beast. I pray that you do everything you can to get back to rare form and get back and play with the Dallas Cowboys and be with us for a long time. Fans, whatever you do, try to change your psyche from blaming the lowest hanging fruit immediately to looking at where the problem actually lies per game. And that'll help you more when you're studying it to understand where we need help at more on the team versus always using the lowest hanging fruit. And whatever you do, don't ever let the haters take you to a point where you feel like you got to run and hide, because we don't hide. We stay visible. And I wear my gear all the time, win or lose. And it doesn't matter. But Cowboys for Life is not a slogan. It is a lifestyle. So you remember that. And we appreciate all you. Tell all your friends and fans and tell all your partners, your family about Cowboys Cave, because once they come on as a fan or come in the comments, they'll never want to leave. They'll come back. And any players out there that may see this in the Dallas Cowboy organization, this is a podcast you must be watching, because we keep it real. We let you know how much we feel about the Cowboys, and we are not bandwagon fans. We are Cowboys fans for life. Happy New Year. Love all y'all. See you next week when we play.
Couldn't have said it better. Happy New Year. Appreciate it. Let's go, Cowboys. Let's whip some Eagles' ass.
Give me somebody that's hungry. Give me somebody that's hungry. I need somebody.